Hey guys, welcome back to Jackula's Castle. It's just me here today. Jackson's off at school, but I figured I should get started on a project we've been talking about. I'm going to show you how to make a candle out of a pool noodle with a wreath around the bottom of it. And while this one leans, obviously to the Christmas end, I think you could do just about anything with this. You could, paint the candle black and use it at Halloween, or white and use it, for a wedding. I mean, there's a million different things you could do with this, I think, once you know how to do the project. You can mix it up however you like. We just happen to be using it for a little bit more of an unusual kind of creepy Christmas thing this year. But I definitely think it's something we'll come back to around Halloween and for other occasions as well. This year, we ended up leaving the two 12-foot skulls that we had on either side of our house out there after we put away all the Halloween stuff. It just didn't quite feel right not having any creepy stuff out there. So we figured that would be a good option. And my wife suggested we go with a little bit of a kind of Christmas Carol vibe to them. So we are going to combine a couple of the ghosts kind of here. The Ghost of Christmas Past that had, in some versions, has the candle over its head. We're going to mix that kind of with the Ghost of Christmas Present that you see with the wreath around his head. We're going to put those together, and we think it'll look nice on the skeleton. What we're going to use, pool noodle, which, oh my God, this time of year is not easy to find. I found a bunch of places that said they had them, but by the time I went to actually go get them and pick them up, they didn't. So I finally found Lowe's. They said they had 36 of them. I decided, okay, I'll order a few just so I have a backup, and I got the last one. That was all they had. So I feel lucky, and it was a red one, and I planned on doing a pink one. I planned on doing a red candle, so it worked out well. But in the future, I will definitely be buying these around Halloween and just keeping a little bit of a back stock because I think they're going to come in handy. And then while I was at Lowe's, there were probably other places with better, maybe cheaper options. I went ahead and picked up garland. You can see it's kind of short because I have already worked on one of there are two skulls. I've already worked on one of them, so I didn't come in here and do a video while I'm making things up and, testing how it works. I kind of have an idea what I'm doing now, but it's basically going to come down to two 12-foot skulls equals one, piece of garland. I think it was $14 at Lowe's. And it's a little plain, so I did also go by Dollar Tree, and they had some of these little, bits. You could cut them here, and it's all a bunch of different poinsettias and berries and leaves. So I'm going to kind of mix those in the garland just to brighten it up a little bit. I am also going to use a blow mold cord with a flicker bulb. I don't have that in here yet, but I'll show you when we get to that point. And a bunch of hot glue and some spray paint. The spray paint I got, I just went ahead and picked up this Krylon Fusion All-in-One. It was only like $1 more than the other option, and it says it's stronger adhesion. I don't know if it really is, but for the $1, I'll take the chance because I don't want to redo this. So I went ahead and went with that. We will also be using some baling wire, which in advance I already painted white because it's just the closest color I had to what the skull actually is. That way it'll blend in a little bit better. I think, and I'll be using a heat gun. I think that's basically what we're working with. So the first thing we need to do is head out into the front yard, measure the garland. We'll go ahead and put it on his head and kind of twist it together so I know what length I'm working with. There's not going to be a whole lot left over, I think. And then we also need to decide how tall we want the candle. So let's go ahead and head out front. I'll show you the skulls we're working with, and we'll get everything measured, and we'll come back out here and get to work. Okay, so we're going to try and fit this garland on there, see about where we want it to rest. Right about there is probably what we're looking for. And each end of it has this hanging end, which works pretty good to do the wrapping. Let's see. That looks about right. So, let's see. If I can get this around there. Because you don't want it too loose or it's going to just fall down his face. But if it's too tight, it won't go down over his head enough to stay to stay where you want it. Let's see, try this. It may take a couple times to... That actually looks pretty good there. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. It could be a hair tighter, but I think we're gonna start with that. We can always, when I bring it back out, it's not like I'm gluing it or anything. I can always retighten it up once I cut it. Then as far as the candle goes, probably want it, I don't know, somewhere around there, I would think. So I'm just gonna mark it with my fingernail there. And we will head to the backyard and cut everything. Let's get moving. Okay, so there was very little left. I wrapped that around right here. I think that's pretty good. You don't want to put it all the way as tight as it could go, because you may have to adjust it once everything's done. I think this is pretty darn close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just cut the tail end of this off so it's not hanging there. I've got these lock cutters here. Probably overkill for the job, but I think it'll do. Let's see. Well, or not. Yep, there we go. Okay. So here we have our wreath, at least the size we think it's going to be. So I'm going to wait and put these on at the end. I'm going to go ahead and cut these while I'm here, though. See if they'll cut with these. Now we're going to use the same lock cutters here. Just cut them kind of on the end. These do have wire in them, so you can wrap these, once you get them on there. That one's not very good, but once you get them on there, you can wrap the wire around this wire, and they should stay put. So on to the candle here. Here is the mark I made with my fingernail. This one is slightly shorter than the other one I made, which is good. I don't think you want them to be exactly the same. So I'm just going to start cutting this right here to get the basic height. We've still got plenty of noodle left for other things. And with this, what I'm going to do is there's all sorts of ways you could do this. It kind of just depends on how you want your candle to look. If you wanted, you could just cut this down a little bit, have it, more like a new flat-topped candle, or you can do what I'm going to do, and you could cut, make it a little bit more of a melted, worn candle. And that kind of goes to the same thing. You could use the light bulb like I'm using for outside, or you could use a little votive light, cut this bigger and just put a little battery-powered votive in there. But what I am going to do is we're going to cut this down a little bit. Cut one side lower than the other, so it kind of has that melted look to it. Not only does it have a little bit more of a realistic melted look to it, but it does make the bulb nice and easy to see for part of it. And you can kind of cut it, and smooth it out as best you can in the shape you want, There's no real right way to do it here. But I definitely think they look better if they're a little more, naturally melted looking. And a lot of this, if it's not quite the way you want it, if you gouge it a little bit, some of it's going to get covered up with paint and glue, it's not going to be all that obvious. Plus, in this case, it doesn't have to be perfect just because it's going to be, everyone's viewing it from a distance. Now, if you're using it for a table, centerpiece or something, that's a little bit of a different story. So here's kind of our basic shape. You can see what I did. What we're going to do is I am going to turn the heat gun on, and that'll smooth it out a little bit here. See, I gouged it a little there more than I wanted to, but it will be just fine. I'm going to plug the heat gun in, and then I'll show you what that does. Okay, so I've got the heat gun going here. It's warming up, and it's not going to do a ton, but what it's going to do is it's going to smooth this out a little bit. It's going to get rid of a little bit of the porousness of the noodle. I even do it a little bit on the sides just because I feel like it smooths it out a little bit. You could probably get away without this step if you really wanted to. And some of these tools and things like this, I will go ahead and put a link to in the comments. We are an Amazon affiliate, so we do get a small proceed, you know, if you order things through there. It really does help out our channel. So if you're looking to get any of this stuff to make your own project, we sure do appreciate it if you check out our links. I'll do the same with the glue gun and anything else I can find on there. So I'll give you a close look here. As it heats up, it starts, probably a little hard to see on the camera, but it starts smoothing some of this out. So I can get a little closer there. But I think it just gives it a better surface for all of the hot glue we're going to use. And you can see here on the sides, it kind of tightens it up and it gets rid of some of those holes. And like I said, I don't think you 100% would have to do this, but I tried it the other day and it seems to work all right, so I figured I'd stick with it. The main part, though, is the top up here. Give it one more little go here, and then I'm going to get the light bulb, and we are going to go ahead and test fit it. So while that's cooling off, you can see here the difference it made. It just smoothed it down a little bit, took a little of the porousness out of the sides, and I am going to cut that tiny little sharp corner off there. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. So I'm going to go ahead and get the light, and we'll give that a test fit. Okay, so this is basically just an old blow mold cord with a flicker light in it. I think the cord originally came out of one of those plastic pumpkins that you use out in the front yard. I'll throw a link up there too, because I believe Amazon sells the blow mold cords. And then I've got this flicker bulb. I've had it for ages. I don't know if they make better flicker bulbs or if this is kind of as good as they get, but I'm going to look into that as well. But on the one I tested yesterday, this setup worked great, so we're going to go with it again. What I did was I ran the cord. You have to kind of make sure, get your fingers in there and kind of widen up the hole in there just a little bit. And then run the power cord down through there. It's a little hard to pull through, so I went ahead and just got some needle nose pliers. Pulled that right on through there. And then because this has the prongs on there for the blow mold, it actually works pretty good at holding itself in place. You've just got to kind of get it down in there as best you can. And like I said before, you're going to be putting so much hot glue on here, you know, if you accidentally make a little tear or something, it's not the end of the world. And if you find that that's too hard, you could always cut a little bit of the prongs off of there. See, like this one is not quite wanting to go down in there. So I am just going to give these a little trim here. Just so it slides down in there just a little easier. Because you want it to where, you know, it's easy enough to change the bulb, but you also don't really want to see the plastic. So that's about what I'm going to go with there. And I'll even plug it in here so you can get a little bit of an idea of what we're starting to look at here. Just make sure it's straight in there where you want it. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to start heating up that glue gun. Oh, one other thing before I heat up the glue gun. You should decide the way you want this to face, because it's easier to cut a slot here for the cord. That way this will sit without doing that constantly. So I believe on mine, I've got it facing, the one that's out there is facing this way. So I'm gonna I'm going to angle this one a little bit different. I think I'm going to put it more facing the front. So I'm going to do this one straight out the back. I'm just going to give it a little snip. And that way the cord will go up like this and it'll sit. That way it doesn't keep tipping over on me when I'm trying to work on it. So I'm going to get the glue gun heated up and we'll get moving with that. Okay, so we are going to use this cordless Black & Decker hot glue gun. This thing works great. It's nice not to have to deal with the cord when you're doing stuff like this. What we're going to do is, the first thing I'm going to do is I did put a little painter's tape in here so that, you know, I don't accidentally get any hot glue down in the bulb socket there. First thing I'm going to do is glue in the socket. Some of it, especially in the back, is going to take a decent little bit. My glue, get it all the way in there. Get it all the way around there so that doesn't move. 'Cause you're not going to want it to move when, you know, when you're eventually having to change that bulb. And you don't want that big hole down in here either. Let's see. Try not to get it too much on the top of that socket. And you may have to go over it a couple times. One of the big things I did learn when I was doing it before is I was just doing the drips down the front. But it really looks best if the whole top kind of has that glossy glow on it. So what I found was that my trigger's sticking a little bit here. It will kind of, you know, flow down and smooth itself out, which looked better once it was all painted. So I go over the whole top, kind of let it drip down and smooth out there. It just gave it a little bit more of a realistic look to it rather than the pool noodle look. And then we'll add all the drips going down it here in just a second. Get this whole top part covered. I think I need some WD-40 on my handle here. I haven't used it in, God, over a year. Been sitting too long. Still better than dealing with a cord, though. And I need more glue. Right in there. Okay, so we're going to start with some drips here. Some of them will kind of just drip down naturally. You want the bigger ones because especially like with this, you know, it's kind of far away. People are mostly seeing it from the street. Or some of it's a little more important, you know, if you're using it for a centerpiece or something like that. And I put most of the drips on the front here because that's where it's melted the most. But you definitely could use some on the side and the back here as well, just maybe some smaller ones. Like this is a kind of a melted hole here, so I think it makes sense to have a little bit of a bigger drip there. And just, you know, kind of use your own judgment here. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And especially on this one, this is the back. So it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference anyway, because nobody is ever going to see it but me. But you definitely want it to have that waxy look. Some of these you have to, well, some of them will kind of flow on their own. Some of them you have to get out here and put on yourself. But overall, I think that is looking pretty good right there. And it's a little hard to tell until the hot glue starts to dry, because it will turn a little bit more of a milky white than it is now. It's just totally clear. And you do want to make sure your holes around the bulb are all filled in, because some of that will start sinking down into the hole. But I think I pretty much got that. So I'm going to let this dry. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to pick off the strings. Okay, so you can see now that it got a little more dry. It turned that little bit more of a milky white. So you can really get a good idea of how your drips came out. It did fill in I think most all of the holes. You can still see a little bit back here, so I may fill that in real quick. But the main thing now is to pull the strings off of here. You get all those little hot glue, little strings that are left behind. And while it probably wouldn't be the end of the world if you painted over them, it's a pretty easy time to go back and peel them off of there so they don't get in the way of your paint job. And the paint, we will go outside the shed. It should take 1 coat of paint. At least that's what it took on the last one. I think I got pretty lucky finding the pink pool noodles because, you know, I'm not trying to cover up like fluorescent blue or anything with red. So I think that's kind of in my favor. But the paint seems to cover these pretty well, seems to stick pretty well. So that's all we should have to do there. And while that paint is drying, we'll start adding the rest of the berries and whatnot to our wreath. So as soon as it's dry, we'll be ready to attach it and see what it looks like. Let's head out. And, you know, I almost just said, hey, should we head out and go paint? But there's nobody here. Jackson's not here. Okay, so I'll tell you, we're going to head out and go paint. Let's go make this candle red. So I've got the candle ready to go. It's totally dry. I don't really have a great place to do this, so we're just going to kind of do it out here. Hope we don't make a mess and get it all over everything. One thing that you shouldn't forget, like I did, when I was filling in this back hole up here with the glue, I did take the tape off to make sure that the bulb would still fit where I wanted it to. Make sure you retape that if you do a similar thing before you throw the spray paint on there, because if it gets in here on these contacts, that bulb is not going to work. So real quick break while I remember to put the tape on there. The tape doesn't have to be like crazy in there because, I mean, you shouldn't be using so much spray paint that it's going to like soak the thing. And you do want all the white around it getting covered. So I just take little pieces, kind of poke them down in there with my pinky, and hopefully that'll do it. I'll put one tiny piece on top, just to kind of give it a little extra shield there. And I'll show you what I've done. Because you want it to get, you know, you want it to protect the inside of the socket, but you also want the outside of the socket to get painted. So I'm going to shake this up a little bit here. And the top of it, you can usually kind of hold it. I'll set it down on there to get the bottom of it so I don't get completely covered. But holding it kind of gives you a little bit of a better angle at what you're looking at here. I'll do about halfway and then I'll set it down. Hope a bunch of leaves don't fall on it. Make sure you've got your cord tucked out the back so that it sits upright. Just get that like that. You can even kind of turn it with the cord. Okay, so we've got the candle here. It's drying. And you can still touch it up after this. Like I think the other day when I did it, there were a couple spots I didn't like, some strings that were on there that really stood out after I painted it. You can always go back and add some more hot glue on there, cover up what you want, pull strings off. You can keep messing with it. So we're gonna let this dry. Let's go in and work on the wreath. Okay, so for the wreath, I think the first thing you wanna do is pick the front. What you want on the front, because some things you're not gonna want, you know, in the very front. Like these poinsettias are pretty good size. So I wouldn't suggest putting them right in front of the candle. You want them, you know, maybe a little bit more to the side. I think I'm going to go, because I've got it twisted back here. So I'm going to make that the back. I'll make this the front. You got a couple pine cones that can be seen. And then I'm going to put like the poinsettias kind of offset. You do need to kind of go through and fluff these up, because when you're wrapping the berries and the poinsettias and stuff on there, you don't want to wrap it around, you know, these little pieces of the branch. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to fluff this up when it's out there and you need to. You'll have tied them all up with the the poinsettias and stuff, and it's just not going to look quite as good. So make sure you've got all those kind of separated so you can actually get to the base of the wire. Plus you want them all kind of pointing the same direction. So there we go. Now I can feel, you want to feel down to the very center of the wire. Figure out where you want your poinsettia at here. Get it in there, and then twist that wire around the base wire of the wreath a few times. This one had a couple leaves on it, which worked out all right. And then you can kind of position this any way you want it. You probably want it kind of on the side, so that it can be seen. So that's kind of what you're left with. And then I just kind of go around. The berries work great in the front, so I'll put those kind of here with the pine cone around this part of the wreath. You can push these leaves. They kind of slide all over the place. You could probably get, a little bit fancier ones somewhere other than the dollar store, but they do the trick. If I had it to do over again, I would probably go and just spend a hair more money on the garland, one that had the berries and things like that on it, because, by the time you pay the $14 for the garland, and then the money for the these extra pieces, you probably could have just bought a little bit of a fancier piece of garland. But what happened was, when we were at Dollar Tree, I intended on getting garland there, but then they had a small wreath that, I thought was going to be exactly the right size for the skulls, so I didn't worry too much about any of the other stuff. Well, the wreath was most definitely not the right size for the skulls, so it all kind of became an ordeal. But otherwise, yeah, I would do it the other way next time. And once you get all these on here, you're going to have to go through and rearrange everything anyway. And I just go all the way around it, little bits here and there. It just kind of spices it up a little bit here, because this garland isn't very interesting on its own. But these seem to help it a little bit. It makes it stand out a little bit more. And I do want to say, while I'm doing this, I'm doing this for kind of an odd reason. Most people probably aren't trying to make Christmas hats for their 12-foot skeletons. But there's no reason that this, has to be for a 12-foot skeleton. This would work just as well for a table centerpiece, or fine, you don't even need the wreath. You make a bunch of the candles and you use them for Halloween, make them black. All sorts of things you could do with this. I will absolutely be revisiting the candles again for Halloween. I'd seen that people made things like this with the pool noodles, but I'd never tried it myself. So I will definitely be jumping on that bandwagon again in the future, because I think they came out far better than I planned. Plus, some of the ones that I had seen were just with little battery-operated tea lights, which really doesn't do it for me, because I'm more interested in something that I can use in my outside display. And battery-powered tea lights just don't cut it, because, I don't want to be changing them all the time. Button batteries, or really any kind of batteries, I just, I'd rather it plugged in. So I think the flicker bulbs work way better. But like I said, all you have to do to make it a tea light is to make that hole in the top a little bit bigger. So here we go. We got all our poinsettias on here, the berries. These were all different. Some of them have more berries than poinsettias. Some have more poinsettias than berries. But either way, it adds a splash of color. Next thing we're going to do is you decide, okay, if this was the back, you are going to we're basically going to put the candle in the middle. We are going to run the wire through the candle, attach it both sides here, and do the exact same this way. That way it anchors the candle in the middle, kind of sits on his head like a hat. So what I learned the other day is you do not want to do this before you go out there, because it's not going to be just the right size. So what I'm going to do is the very end of this, don't use a lot because, well, if you cut yours better than mine, you could use a lot. But I cut mine a little short. But just take one end, wrap it over here, get it on there good, and leave the other end hanging. And do the same on this side because the rest of it is going to have to be adjusted when you're out there. It's too hard to guess in here on how you're going to do it. So I've got these two pieces ready. When I get the candle dry, I'll stick this through the foam and then it'll be anchored in there and then we'll take it out front. Okay, so the paint dried. I did go back and make a couple little adjustments. It wouldn't have mattered for what I was using it for, but it was driving me crazy. After I did it, I did have a few strings kind of up here near the top. And when you're using kind of this gloss red, those strings definitely do show up. So I went back and I put a little more glue over those spots to kind of cover it up. But you can see now how it came out. The strings aren't there anymore. It's a little bit of a smoother, more melty looking surface rather than having all that stringiness up there. I think it came out pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug this here. I'm going to bring the camera a little bit closer so you can see exactly how I'm going to attach this. And then we'll take it out to the front yard and test fit it. We are going to start with the front. You don't want to go too high up on the candle. Probably right about there is what I'm going to go with it. You want to give it enough room where it won't, pull out the bottom, so you don't want it too close. But I'm going to start right about here. And I am going to go straight through, as straight as I can get it. And I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. And then we're going to do the same with this one. Straight through this other way, about the same height. And we're just going to pull it through. And you can see right already kind of the way that this is going to work. It'll hold it right there. And, this will be able to come up a little bit higher. And it will hopefully sit on his head just like a hat. So let's take this around front and see how we did on our measurements. Let's take a real quick kind of initial look and just see what we're looking at here. Let's see where we're at. It's looking pretty good because you got to remember, this is all gonna fluff up as well. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and start tying this side on here. We may have to come back and mess with it a time or two. And this one as well. I'm going to tuck the cord underneath the wreath here. Make sure I got it kind of straight. And then wrap this one around the back here. We can move it all around. Let's see. There we go. I think that's about it. Now, what I will say is that I do have a plug already back here. But what I will say is, while it's on there, I'm not 100% confident that it'll stay there if we get a pretty serious windstorm. So my plan is to take some fishing line and I'm going to run it from this side under the skull back up to this side, just to give it a little bit of extra hold in case we get a storm rolling through. So now I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the camera off the tripod and I will take you down and show you how the other one turned out. Here's a little bit of a close-up look at the skull. If this was someplace, you know, down lower or that people would get closer to, you could always add some more greenery up here to cover this up. But as it is now, nobody can see that, you know, unless they're standing right on top of it. You can see down here, I do have the cords all plugged in here, the blow mold, the skull, and the new candle I just did. I'll give you a pretty good look at this one from a couple different angles here. And then let's head on down to the other side of the yard and take a look at the first one I made here. Here is the first one I did. You can see the candle right off the bat, angled a little differently and shaped a little differently as well, which I think was the way to go. You don't want them all looking just the same like you bought them at a store. Here's a bit of a close-up on that one. But I think they came out pretty good. I think I'm happy with them. All there is to do now is wait for Jackson to get home, wait for it to get dark, and see how these guys look. Okay, so Jackson came home from school.
Yeah.
We waited until the sun went down, which is at like 2 p.m. nowadays.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Well, it's 6 p.m. now. Sun went down at like 4:30, I think. 4:30 or 5.
Yeah,
it was
somewhere.
early. The skulls are both up now. What do you think?
I think they're really cool.
Did I do all right?
Yes.
Are you sad that you weren't here to also share in the work?
No, I'm not sad at all.
What do you
whatsoever.
mean?
I'm not sad.
Huh. Okay, so let's give them a good look here in the dark. We'll walk down to the other side of the house. You didn't know what I was going to do with the pool noodles.
That's crazy.
I think I just almost fell out of the flower bed there. But you seemed to kind of act like I was nuts for thinking a pool noodle would make a good candle.
Yeah, I thought you were nuts.
Was I nuts?
No.
It worked, didn't it?
It did. It worked.
All right, so let's head on down to the other side of the house here and take a look at the second skull. Okay, so here is the second one that I worked on.
Yes.
We changed his eye color in this one. See this? It's not the same guy. It's a different guy.
Okay.
This one's got brown eyes. I didn't want you to mistake it and think that, like, you know, it was the same guy.
I wouldn't have think
it's
that.
like a
because
brother.
I can see the other one
Oh,
over there,
okay.
Jason. They would have been twins.
No, they're not twins.
They would have been.
The candle's a little different on this one.
Yeah.
But I think they both came out pretty good.
They did.
And the thing I like about it is I think there's a lot of different stuff that you could do with them. I think we could use them. We could make candles for Halloween. You could make a bunch of black
You
ones
could, definitely.
all sorts of different things like that. So now that I know how to do it, I'll show you and you'll be able to do it next time.
Yeah. No.
What do you, you
No.
almost said okay. Huh. So we got the skulls done.
We did.
What are we doing next?
I don't know.
You have no idea.
Maybe
I hope you
inside
know a little
Christmas?
bit about
Inside
it because,
Christmas?
well, yeah, but you've already filmed part of another video.
Have I?
We decorated.
Oh, yeah. We decorated.
Decorated. So these videos are coming out a little out of order. The next thing that comes up will probably be the outdoor decorating video, which may be its own thing. It may be part of just a getting ready for Christmas special.
Okay.
We'll see how long it all turns out.
Getting ready for Christmas special part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
They're lucky. They're going to be lucky to get 7.
20.
No, there will probably only be 2 or 3 of these.
20.
No, there's not going to be 20. I wouldn't survive 20. So we've got that coming up.
Yes.
We're going to try and squeeze a few more shopping videos in there.
Okay.
I think. So anyway, lots of stuff. This time of year, you kind of just wing it.
Yeah, you do.
There's a lot going on, so we're going to wing it. Keep an eye out for it all. Please like and subscribe. Bye.
Bye.